Have hope. I'm gonna have hope that we can go live. Now we have this. There's that. Okay. All right. Are you telling me that I'm live? This is by far the most stressful part of this. It says I'm live. Awesome. Okay. So we need to all have something that we work on that says hi. I'm here. Welcome. Even before we get started, because we all have this thing online where we're like, am I live yet? Is it going yet? Are people here yet? Should I just chill here? And if I shouldn't chill, when should I go live? When we have a certain amount of people watching? Is that when I go live? Also, I'm trying to get off the screen usage of watching it while it's happening. There's a lot of things happening in live structures, in things that are live. But either way, I trust that this will work, and it's good to see you. This is the Jesus platform. A couple quick things on the notes. It's only going to last about 10, 15 minutes tops. You can always come back if you're not here when it's happening. I don't think we need a lot of time, but what I wanted to do each week leading up to the election at least is talk about what Jesus would say. So kind of a play on what would Jesus do? Not that we ever want to go back to the late 90s, early 2000s. What would Jesus say? That's what I'm interested in. Also, you might notice that there's like two different cameras here because I don't want us to all just focus on me the whole time. So this is an Ethiopian print of the Last Supper, which I thought appropriate. So this time, as we start looking at what Jesus' platform would be, if Jesus had a platform similar to the modern day, current day Republican and Democratic parties of the United States, what might that look like? What would it say? Obviously, we're going to have to do a little bit of guesswork here because Jesus didn't specifically talk about a lot of things. Didn't say one word about abortion, for instance, or one word about the sexual orientation or gender identity, although that last one's a little bit, something could be happening. Oh, Gregory comes in. What's up, Greg? I also am trying not to look at this stuff as it happens, right? Trying to be like here with the camera, but obviously I just said hello to Gregory H. Strong. So back and forth. I'll try to go back and forth here. I'm also trying not to look at my face the whole time. Come on. So what would Jesus say? This week, we're talking about healthcare and the Gospel of Mark. One quick thing on that. You can always, we have to be real about the Bible disclaimer. If there's one disclaimer I'll give you, it's the Bible disclaimer. That's a ton of books. It's 66 plus. It's helpful to look at the word itself. In Greek, it's biblia. It's plural, so it just means little books. If you have 66 books from different authors writing in different contexts with different agendas, you might come up with a Bible or pieces that contradict one another, right? So I'm trying not to cherry pick here. I'm trying to look at a larger theme within these Gospels so that we can get a closer picture to what Jesus might say. I don't think we can get a good handle on what would Jesus do, even if we brought that back, bracelets notwithstanding. Or what would Jesus say, or what would Jesus think? A lot of times we don't have those things specifically in the Bible, so what we have to do is look at larger themes in the Bible to predict what Jesus might do, given what we see about him, given what he does. To quote the Reverend Dr. Phil Rugy Jones, God is as Jesus does. So if we don't have a good sense or if we want to get a good sense of what God is, or who God is, or what God is like, look at what Jesus does. Not necessarily what he says, but what he does. And from that, hopefully, we can come up with a sense of what he might say. That's the guesswork. So, again, just to bear in mind, this week I want to look at healthcare and sort of what Jesus might say around healthcare. I feel like he might say a lot and might have a lot to say, given the current struggle within the idea of healthcare and universal healthcare and the money to spend for it. So looking at the Gospel of Mark, that's specifically what I wanted to do, was look at Mark. A quick little aside into the Twitterverse. There's this conversation happening around which is the best gospel. That is hogwash. Objectively speaking, Mark is the best. And yes, I use hogwash. Okay, I said it. I said that word. We need to... I think it just it's a question more of, I'm mostly kidding. It's really kind of personal preference. It's really a difference between preference and like orientation. The Gospels kind of contradict one another. They each have, I would say, good and bad things to them. So anyways, I just wanted to start with Mark first, and I wanted to let everybody know on Twitter that you're wrong if you think anything other than Mark. I'm kidding. You're not wrong. I just want to help you to see how amazing Mark is. Specifically, we're going to get through all of it right now. And so I'm less interested in verses, right? And more interested in themes and larger themes within Mark. So we start with Mark. We start at Mark 1. It's hard to underestimate how amazing it is to experience this being told all in one sitting. I know several people who can do that. I've experienced it several times. It takes around 2.5 hours. Mark is the only gospel that you could actually even do that with. So it makes sense that it was the first one written, since it was made to be said and to be spoken. We are almost certain that Mark was spread around orally for centuries. And so that's an amazing piece about Mark from the very beginning. But you start off with such a bold declaration, right? To say this is the beginning of the good news of Jesus, the Christ, the Son of God. So everything that you know about Caesar, everything you know about the Roman oppression model, Jesus is all those things. It's like the definition of subversive. You know who the Christ is? It's not Caesar, it's Jesus. You know, when Rome goes around and beats down other cultures and kind of assimilates them in and calls it Pax Romana, they also call it the good news. That good news is not what you think it is. That good news is here for all of us to see. And then we have 16 insane chapters ending with the best ending, because there's an empty tomb. Jesus isn't even there. It's not even a resurrection, really. It leaves us to do that work, which is incredible. So I'm just saying, Mark's gospel is a part of, it's not a luxury, it's a necessity, right? And then it should be affordable. All those things that are kind of wrapped up in this. I'm trying to figure out how Jesus is responding in Mark's gospel, Mark's portrayal of Jesus. And I start noticing all the different just headlines. I'm not always a fan of the New Revised Standard Version, but I will say that the New Interpreter's Study Bible that uses that is incredible. And something happened, of course. No, it's still going. It's still going. Internet quality is poor, it says. Okay. Continue broadcast. Okay. Oh, the connection is trash. Well, that's why nobody's watching. Great. Cool. So I came in halfway through that. This is also a live thing, so we're going to figure out the quality. I am almost sure that I worked on that, but of course I'm not. So, and that's why I shouldn't check this stuff halfway through. But we will come back to that, and I'm so very sorry for the internet. Although I'm just going to take one quick second and be the tech guy real quick and make sure that the internet is still good here. Um, yeah, but bear with me, y'all. I'm sorry. I'm just going to try and see if we can get a new or better setup for Wi-Fi. No. We're going to keep this marginal time. We're still live here. Y'all are bearing with me. I really appreciate it. So I'm looking at Mark, right? And trying to take a larger view of the things that Jesus is doing, right? The actions that Jesus is taking. And as we go through all of these, starting with Mark 1, I'll just read the headlines. And when it comes to Jesus and his attitude towards the health of people, I'm just going to name the ones that seem to connect with that idea. Jesus heals Mary at Simon's house. Actually, the man with an unclean spirit that Jesus heals first, that's in the very first chapter of Mark. So right away, Jesus has this commitment to healing people, right? Jesus heals many at Simon's house. Jesus cleanses a leper. Jesus heals a paralytic, chapter 2. Let's see. Jesus heals a man with a withered hand. And as we kind of go through this nice overview of the entire Gospel of Mark, we're at chapter 5 now. Jesus heals the Gerasene demon. I just want to read one piece of it from this article in The Atlantic. I think it provides a good framework. There is a war between those fighting to open America back up for the sake of individual freedom in terms of COVID-19, and those fighting to keep America closed for the sake of community freedom. A civil war over the very meaning, the very utility of freedom. It says, from the beginning of the American project, the powerful individual has been battling for the constitutional freedom to harm, and the vulnerable community has been battling for its constitutional freedom from harm. Continue broadcast. Please keep going. Bad internet. I don't know what to say about that. I'm so sorry, everybody. I know the connection is trash. Hopefully this can be a piece that you can look on later. I'm going to keep on powering through, and we'll pick up these problems, these very frustrating problems, later. Again, more from Ibram. Slaveholders hardly seemed to care that secession was going to condemn the non-slaveholding Southern community to war, to mass injuries and death on battlefields and in contraband camps. Slaveholders hardly seemed to care that the Confederate States would have been a veritable hell for poor non-slaveholding whites and the hell of hells for enslaved black people. Too many Americans today hardly seem to care that withdrawing states from stay-at-home orders too soon would scarcely free their communities from the viral war, from mass infections, from deaths on hospital and bedroom beds, a veritable disaster for innumerable white Americans, and a disaster of disasters for innumerable Americans of color. This piece, I think, connects with the religious freedom that we talk about a lot, right? I'm Christian, therefore I can't eat that, as opposed to I'm Christian, therefore you can't eat that. What I think Jesus would say about healthcare today is that the freedom from disease, from dying from preventable illness or from dying in overcrowded hospitals, that freedom is more important than the freedom to assert this weird understanding of healthcare that we shouldn't be forced to have it, or there's this sense that somehow universal health care either costs too much money or infringes on the liberty of the individual, where again, I would say, I agree with Kendi and his idea. We'll hit you up soon. Take care. Wash your hands. If you're going out, wear a mask. Take care of others. God be with you. Good night.